Okay, let's dive in. Ever found yourself just buried under a pile of documents?
Yeah, legal stuff maybe. Research papers.
Exactly. And you just need the core story, like right now. Well, this deep dive, it's for you.
Hmm.
We're slicing into some pretty recent legal filings, specifically a criminal information that lists the charges and a consent preliminary order of forfeiture.
Right, which details the plea agreement and the sort of agreed consequences.
And it all centers on alleged fraud connected to those pandemic relief programs.
So our mission today is really to walk you through these specific court documents. We'll pull out the key bits, the essentials about the alleged scheme they describe.
And what the agreed outcome was, right?
Yeah.
Based only on what's in these papers.
Precisely.
Okay, so context first. Think back to the CARES Act. Big deal, obviously.
Huge. And specifically those programs, the EIDL Economic Injury Disaster Loans and the PPP Paycheck Protection Program.
Designed to get aid out fast to businesses during the height of the pandemic disruption.
And according to these filings, the key thing about those initial EIDL applications was they didn't always need tons of documentation up front.
Right. And the PPP loans, they went through private lenders, but the government guaranteed them.
Yeah, and this is crucial, the point these documents make, is that applicants had to certify their info was true.
Under penalty of perjury. That's a big statement to make.
It really is. And that certification, it's absolutely central to the allegations laid out here.
Which focus on who, specifically?
These papers zero in on an individual, Mitchell Summerfield, based in Apex, North Carolina, and several entities linked to him.
Okay, what were they?
KHS Investments, LLC, Vision and Destiny, LLC, and Winning Ways, Inc.
Got it. And the core charge?
The main allegation in these court filings is a conspiracy. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud.
So basically using electronic means and deceiving banks.
Exactly. Spanning from around July 2020 to July 2021. And it all revolves, allegedly, around misrepresentations made to get those EIDL and PPP funds.
And looking across the documents, you start to see, well, what these filings allege is a pattern, right?
That seems to be the picture painted, yes. Yeah. The filings suggest the alleged scheme often involved entities that were either, not really operating.
Or misrepresent.
Precisely. Describing tactics like submitting false statements about revenue, number of employees.
And I saw something about fabricated tax forms.
Allegedly fabricating tax forms, yes, to back up these applications.
Okay, so let's take an example. KHS Investments.
Right. The filings describe it as supposedly a real estate entity, but alleged to be non-operational. Yet it allegedly received both PTP funds, about $20,833, and then multiple EIDL deposits.
Multiple?
Yes, one for $75,100, another for $125,500. So adding up to over $220,000 for just that one entity, allegedly based on those false statements and fraudulent forms mentioned. The documents also note something interesting. The bank accounts often had minimal balances right before these huge deposits hit.
Okay. And where did the money go, according to the filings?
Allegedly used for personal things. Designer clothes, family planning services, shopping, flights, things like that. They do note a third EIDL request was flagged and denied for KHS.
Okay, so that pattern you mentioned, does it show up with the other companies?
It appears so, based on the descriptions. Vision and Destiny, LLC, described as a public speaking business. The filings allege it used a fake address and a fabricated tax form for a PPP application.
And that resulted in?
A deposit of $20,833, also allegedly spent on personal expenses.
And the third one, Winning Ways.
Winning Ways, Inc. Reportedly set up for teen mothers, but again, never actually operational according to the papers.
So similar alleged situation.
Seems that way. It allegedly made false statements about revenue, employees, cost of goods sold on an EIDL application.
Leading to?
A $10,000 EIDL advance and a $149,900 loan. And again, the documents point out the bank balance was just $60 before this money came in.
Wow, and the use of funds there.
Allegedly went towards paying back a totally unrelated loan and for consulting services. A request for more EIDL funds for Winning Ways was also denied.
Okay, so the filings lay out these alleged parallel tracks for different entities. It's quite detailed. What do the documents say happened in the end? What was the outcome documented in that forfeiture order?
Well, the consent preliminary order of forfeiture states that Mitchell Summerfield pleaded guilty to that conspiracy charge we talked about earlier.
Okay, pleaded guilty.
Yes, and as part of that plea, he consented to forfeiture. The documents show he specifically stipulated that he personally obtained at least $402,100 $166 from the offense.
$402,000, and he agreed to forfeit that amount.
Agreed to forfeit it, yes. And the order includes a provision for substitute assets, meaning if those specific funds aren't available, the government can go after other assets of equivalent value.
Right. So pulling back, this deep dive really shows how these kinds of legal filings, the information and the forfeiture order, they give you a very granular look.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You see the alleged mechanics of a specific fraud case laid out.
And the concrete financial consequences agreed upon in court.
It certainly paints a picture based on these specific sources,
Mm-hmm.
which leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Okay.
Based purely on the tactics described in these documents, the alleged use of non-operational companies, the falsified paperwork.
It's reasonable.
It raises a question, doesn't it? When you design programs for speed and broad access, like EIDL and PPP were intended to be,
Yeah.
how challenging is it really for verification systems to catch these kinds of alleged schemes early? What does the scenario described here suggest about those potential vulnerabilities? Something to consider.